Coming out is the wheel. I need to check the wheel to make sure there's no factory welds coming apart and there's no aftermarket repair welds in the wheel. I want to make sure that the flange on the wheel is still perfectly round so that the tire can seat on it properly, both inside and out. So no Volta students have been curbing it or anything. All right. Then we're going to move out to the tire. The tire itself can't have any bulges or cracks in the sidewall. Nothing that would make me scared that I'd have a blowout. The outside has the addition of just being parked in the sun too long. No ozone cracking from the sun. The tread depth has to be a minimum of 430 seconds, and these can't be retreads. This is the steering axle up here. And the inflation has to be properly inflated. The front tires on this truck, it's always right here above this box. It says right there 120 pounds. Right? The front tires are going to be inflated to 120 pounds. The rear is 105 and the trailer is 80. Well, I could check it for you, but you can see it's inflated, Mr. Berg. So coming back a little bit, these are my lug nuts. I need to make sure all the lug nuts are here, none of them are missing. I want to make sure on this truck all the lug nuts have their spacers. I need to make sure that they're tight. And how you do that, if they're all loose, there'd be shiny spots from the wheel wobbling. If one's loose, then there'd be some rust trails coming out from behind the loose one, right, from some moisture. Okay, so none of that's happening. The wheel is secured with all the lug nuts. In the center there is my hub seal. On some trucks you can pop out, or it might even have a clear spot where you can see the fluid level. On this truck it's a factory sealed unit, so I'm just going to check to make sure all the bolts are still present and feel up in there and make sure there's no grease on my fingers. It's still sealed from the factory. It's in great shape. Stepping back to the driver's door. The driver's door is open and closed securely. This is where we keep the flashlight, the rag, and the air gauge. These are the mirrors. The mirrors need to be securely mounted. They can't be broken or cracked. And we'll check their adjustment when I get in the cab and want to make sure they're wiped off when you're out here. None of this is on the test. This is the frame. I missed that yesterday. And I caught it on the other side. And it doesn't matter as long as you get all the check marks. The frame of the vehicle. It looks good. What I mean by that is it's straight from the front to the back. The frame isn't bent, damaged, or rusty. The frame is put together. There's two frame rails with cross members. I want to make sure that I'm looking at the cross members and the bolts. Make sure I don't find any holes in the frame where a bolt used to be. You know, you'd see a clean spot or something. Cross members are still there. The frame is still solid under the truck. While I'm down here is the exhaust system. The exhaust goes from the front to the back right there, and there's no holes in it. It didn't strike anything, get ripped off the truck or something. There's no rust holes in it where you just get gassed at a traffic light. All the hanger brackets are still straight up in the air, hung on the bottom of the frame, and all the strapping bands where the different pieces slide together are still in the same spot. There's no clean or shiny spots. Nothing's been moving around. Standing up, this is the service area of the truck. You want to check the service area. It's generic. It has nothing to do with that crane like yesterday. Nothing to do with that. They don't know what type of truck you're driving. So just generically, there's nothing up here that'll fall off and strike a motorist. The deck itself is secure, and it looks like it would support my weight if I get up there. All right. Since I have side bins, I'm going to want to make sure they're shut on the way around. All right. The only one I need to open is this front one, because you need 3 pieces of safety equipment. You're going to need triangles, a fire extinguisher, and fuses. The fuses are in the dash in the little glove compartment area, but the triangles and the fire extinguisher are right in here. The fire extinguisher was last tested in January, so it's good. It has to be tested every year. All right, coming back. This is another set of tires and wheels. Same thing as the front applies, with the addition of, this is duals. So you check in between the duals and make sure there's no rocks or mud that could fly out and hit somebody, or possibly pop the tire when it goes around to the bulge on the bottom, you know. You'd want, these are only inflated to 105, Mr. Berg says right there next to the box. Everything else is the same. Oh, no. Only 2 30 seconds of tread depth is necessary, and these could be retreads, a cheaper tire. This is not a hub seal, this is an axle seal. So the axle slides in there and then secured with all of its studs and nuts, and it's not leaking any fluid. So the axle seal's good. Yeah, everything else is just like the front. We've already got those. This is the mud flap. It's securely mounted to the back of the truck. It extends below the center line of the axle, and it's not cracked, broken, damaged, or missing. This is the rear of the vehicles. This is where I always catch my reflectors. You can catch them anywhere, but I always catch them here. I want to make sure all the reflectors on the truck are clean of dirt so they reflect. I want to make sure all the lights are intact. I'll check their operation as soon as I get in the cab. And back here is where we're going to hook up our Class A trailer. Trailer over 10,000 pound GVWR. We're using a pintle hook and eye, so you're not going to be using on the sheet. You see the fifth wheel on there. We're not using that crap. Right? Pintle hook and eye. I think on the sheet they're calling it a drawbar. That's more like a dump truck with a dump truck trailer. It's a drawbar. Right? Okay, pintle hook and eye. So I need to make sure the pintle hook, this part, is securely mounted to the back of the truck with these bolts here and a couple underneath. The hook itself hasn't been bent or damaged, it's not cracked. I want to make sure the safety latch is down and engaged and has its safety pin in it so it can't come back open. I want to make sure the eye is still perfectly round, it hasn't been run into and bent. It isn't at some weird angle where I'd question its strength. It hasn't been excessively worn, so it's not thin. It's not metal fatigue cracked, and there's no shiny spots around the mounting bolts. It hasn't been moving around, so it is secure with these bolts, and everything looks good on the eye as well. These safety chains are crisscrossed underneath the connection so that if it were to come uncoupled, those chains would be under it, and if it hits an obstruction and you drive forward, it help lift it over the obstruction to get, so you're trying to make it to the shoulder. All right. Safety chains are crisscrossed, and they are hooked up independently on these eyes, and the eyes haven't been bent or damaged, and they're still welded to the back of the truck, so the safety chain connections look good. I have an electrical line with plenty of slack for cornering, but not enough to drag the ground or get pinched. Secure connection, and it hasn't been pinched, rubbed, cracked, worn, taped, bare, broke, exposed. There's you have to list 4 out of 7. This is the emergency brake away module, and its cable is hooked up independently of the chains. You can't just hook it to the chain, because if the chain breaks, it won't get pulled. Right? So it's hooked up in, it's like a ripcord. If the trailer were to come unattached, this thing's going to pull this emergency breakaway module and it'll fire the trailer brakes. All right, try to stop it. That looks like it's got plenty of slack for corners, in great shape. Turn it around, I'm looking at the tongue of the trailer to make sure it can support the front of the trailer. It's solidly welded to the frame here, and the welds look like they're in great shape. They're not cracking, they're not coming apart. The tongue hasn't been bent, it's not excessively rusty. This is the landing gear on this trailer. I want to make sure it's welded up to the tongue. It looks good, it's not on a rusted spot, it's not bent or damaged. It's fully retracted and has a safety pin in. When I get to where I'm going, this looks like it could support the weight of the trailer. Looking underneath the trailer is the frame, just like the truck. The truck has cross members that are bolted in. This is just all welded together, all the welds look good, but what I'm looking for down here is this decking. On this trailer, it's a metal deck. So you can see the tack welds that secure the deck to the trailer frame. And I need to check that so that I know that not only is this clean of debris that won't fly out and hit somebody, the deck itself isn't excessively rusty, that parts of it could fly out. I also know that the whole damn thing's welded down so it doesn't fly out too, right? Okay. Since the trailer has side bins, I'll check them. There's nothing different here. These are lug nuts and hub seals. 80 pounds of pressure. Other than that, it's 2 30-seconds, right? Just make sure all this stuff's shut. Since I have some ramps, we're going to want to make sure they're in there with their safety pins. They won't come out. Okay. Up this side, just like the other side. He shouldn't be stopping you because you already did this, you already did that, you already did this. If he does stop you, it's because you missed something. Just do it all again. Maybe you'll catch it. Right? Right here is the only thing different on this side of the truck. Underneath, there's no exhaust system. You can see the drive shaft from the front to the rear. Drive shaft's on the test. You need to make sure it's still perfectly round. It hasn't been struck and dented and cause it to vibrate and wear out. It's supported in the center with that carrier bearing. The carrier bearing solidly mounted up there to that frame cross member up there, and there's no shiny spots. Nothing's been moving around. Nothing's been slinging grease. The drive shaft looks good. Standing up, last thing on the test on the outside of the truck is this fuel tank. You want to make sure its hanger bracket, it's like shaped like an L there, is mounted to the side of the frame, and then the tank is slid in place and held with these bands. The bands aren't excessively rusty, looks like they're secure, the tank hasn't been moving around, it's in great shape. I'm looking under here at the fuel lines and the electric lines. Nothing's come unattached, nothing's leaking anything. This tank's in great shape, and this is a demo. You need to make sure the cap is on and secure. That's it, we're ready to get the cap.